So in the last chapter, we learned about slope of a straight line. And now we're going to introduce linear equations of a straight line. So a linear equation means the equation of a straight line. And the first form that we're going to look at is slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is written y is equal to mx plus b, where the letter m stands for the slope of a line, and the letter b stands for the y-intercept. Now we've already looked at slope. Y-intercept, remember, is where it's hitting the y-axis. So if we want to look at a graph and figure out the equation, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read the slope from the graph, then we're going to read the y-intercept from the graph, and we're going to put them into the formula. So here's our first graph. Now, from the last chapter, we learned to find the slope, we need to find 2 points on the graph that are going through the grid lines. So here's 1 point, and here is a second point. From our leftmost point, we're going to start counting, okay? And we're going to do our up or down first. So from our leftmost point, we have to travel up 2. And then from there, we have to travel over 3. So if I look here, up is positive and right is positive. So my slope, I'm going to write it as m, is the up and down goes on top, so 2 over, and then the right or left goes on the bottom, 2 over 3. Then the next thing I need to do is find what my y-intercept is. So here's my y-axis. My y-intercept is right here, and it's at 1. So my y-intercept, otherwise known as b, is 1. So now I'm going to write out my formula. Y is equal to mx plus b, and I'm going to insert the different numbers. 2 over 3x plus 1. So my equation is y is equal to 2 over 3x plus 1. So let's try that over here. You can pause the video if you like to give it a try on your own. So first we're going to pick a point that's going through the grid lines. Where's one here? And then we're going to pick another one right there. Okay. So this is going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this time we're going down, so I'm going to use a negative. We start with our left point, and then from there I'm going to go this way, and we're going 1, 2, 3. And we're going to the right, so it's going to be positive. So my slope here, m, is equal to negative 5 over 3. Now we need the y-intercept, which is the b value. So here's the y-axis, and we're going to go all the way down to where it crosses. Now this is crossing not on a grid line. So anytime you're not on a grid line, you kind of have to estimate what this number would be. In this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's between negative 4 and negative 5. It looks like it's kind of crossing right in the middle. So I'm going to call this negative 4.5. But if you're a little off on either direction, that's fine. Y is equal to mx plus b, and we'll fill in what we know. So our m is negative 5 over 3, and our b is negative 5.5. So that's how we find the equation. Now, horizontal and vertical lines are special cases for finding the equation, the same way they were for finding the slope. For a horizontal line, you are always going to have y is equal to, and then whatever the y-intercept is. For the vertical line, you're always going to have x is equal to, and then whatever the x-intercept is. So let's try that out. It's kind of hard to see this line here. I'll make it pink so it's easier to see. So here it says, use the graph to find the equation of the line. So here we have a vertical line. So you have to memorize that vertical line means x is equal to something. And that number is going to be the point that it crosses this. So here's my x-axis. It's going at negative 1, 2, 3. So x is equal to negative 3. On this one, I have a horizontal line. And I have to know that for a horizontal line, I'm always going to have y is equal to. And this is up here at 2. Y is equal to 2. Now, if you're looking at a graph and you're unsure whether to use y is equal to or x is equal to, look at what axis it's crossing. So if I notice here, this line is crossing the y-axis. It never crosses the x-axis at all, but it's crossing the y-axis, so I know it's going to be y is equal to. On this one, this never crosses the y-axis at all, but it does cross the x-axis, so I know it's going to be x is equal to. So that's just a little trick to help you remember. Okay, so now this time they're giving us the equation and they want you to draw the graph. So the first step is we're going to identify the y-intercept and graph that point. So here, my y-intercept is 4, so I'm going to graph a 4. So I'll put a point right here. Okay, it's always going to be the y-intercept that we're graphing. They don't give us any information about the x-axis, so we should never be having our first point on the x-axis unless it's over here at 0. It's always going to be on the y. So identify the y-intercept and graph. Graph 2 more points using the slope, counting from y as your starting point, and then draw a connecting line. So my slope here is in front of my x. So this is my start. This is my slope. So my slope is just -2. Anytime I have a whole number, I'm going to put it over 1. So I'm going to change that to -2/1. Now remember that if it's negative, I'm going to go down. So this is 2 down. And the negative always goes with the top, so my bottom is always going to be positive. That means it's always going to be right. So 1 to the right. So I'm going to go 2 down and 1 right. So I can count that. 1, 2, 1 right, right here. I can do it again and again. 2 down, 1 right, 2 down, 1 right. Okay. If I want to go the other direction, I can go 2 up and 1 left. Once I have a bunch of points, I can take a ruler and draw a nice straight line through my points, add my arrows if I want, and I've graphed my equation. Here, again, graph the following. So I'm going to start here with my -2. It's always going to be on the y-axis, so I'll go down to -2 and put my starting point. In this case, my slope is 1/4, which is 1 up and then 4 right. So for my starting point, I'll go 1 up and then 4 right. 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. If I tried to do that again, I would go off the graph. So instead I can go 1 down and 4 left. So I can reverse both. Okay, or 1 down, 4 left. Make sure that after you've done your points, if you did some reversing, that these are in a still straight line. If you ever end up with a curved line or anything that looks weird, you made a mistake somewhere and you should go back and try again. And again, our horizontal and vertical lines are special cases. So here it says graph the following, y is equal to 4. So y is equal to 4, we need to remember that that is a horizontal line because y is equal to. If you forget, if it says y is equal to, that means it's going to be intersecting your y-axis. So we're going to find a point at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right there. And then you're going to want to draw a line that cuts through that axis. So y is equal to is horizontal. Okay, and if you forget, if you have your axis, you're going to want to draw your line that's cutting through your axis. Next, we have x is equal to. So anytime we see x is equal to, we know vertical line. So here we're going to find our x, and we're going to go to -3. And we'll draw a point at -3. And then we want a line that cuts through our axis. So it's vertical and it's cutting through. And that's it for this part.